Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Laura Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts,
Archlector George,
and Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
We continue our coverage of The Heroes, Joe's second standalone, and the next First Law entry. And we cover Shadows, Under the Wing, and Names. So let's get started. Thank you all for continuing to follow and support us. Follow and support us. Follow and support us. We appreciate it. We got a couple of additions to the Discord channel, right?
I think just one.
I think.
But, yes, Taco Tuesday has joined us. Thank God.
Taco
Now we
Tuesdays,
can finally have it.
That's right. Yeah, we recruited one of the Meme of the Week winners, right?
Absolutely. We're slowly gathering you all together. You're going to get you all in one Discord server.
We're going to get you guys all.
Start a Hunger Games type thing.
You guys off of Reddit and migrate over to us.
Yeah, like Pokemon. We're gathering you up.
Yeah.
Although Taco Tuesday did reach out to us, so
That's
we appreciate it very much. We always love that.
And we encourage you to continue to reach out to us and to try to, join the Discord or just shoot us some messages or questions or anything. I saw that there was a comment on a YouTube.
Yeah.
There
was a comment on it says that you look like Jazaltan Luther.
If he was blonde, then yeah. And I won't say the other one. The other one's too self-incriminating. We all know what the other one is.
What, the chin?
The height, Jeffrey. The height.
Damn, homie.
You gotta hit it where it hurts, man. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's all good.
You're only a few inches shorter. I just think it would make a difference,
Well, that's why we have trick of the camera.
You're much more of a blacked out type.
You know what? You're much more of a suck my dick type. How about that?
Oh, shit.
But yeah, so continue to leave us comments, messages, emails, and join the party, folks. Join the party. We'll move on to our first segment, which is our community interaction segment. Boys, we will continue to highlight the memeing every chapter soiree, right?
Yes. If for those who have not listened yet to that, then you're fools. Otherwise, as far as we know, to be fair, I've not been very diligent in my duties lately, but as if we're all super diligent with this podcast, other than the weekly episodes. But yeah, it's fairly quiet otherwise. So just jump on there, make some memes, and we have seen a lot more interactivity. So no berating this time. We're proud of you all.
Thank you. But yeah, hop on over to the House of the Meme Maker subreddit and partake in the meming every chapter contest, I guess you could say. Not sure, right?
I mean, that's probably the best word for it. Competition, contest. There's just no prizes.
Mm-hmm.
The prizes are your own warm, glowing feeling of having contributed.
Yeah. Well, with that in mind, we will move on to our first chapter read-through, which is Shadows. Your August fuckhole. The truth. Under the willful mismanagement of the old villains on your close council, your army is rotting. Frittered away with cavalier carelessness as a rake might fritter away his father's fortune. If they were the enemy's counselors, they could scarcely do more to frustrate your fuckhole's interest in the North. You could do better yourself, which is truly the most damning indictment of which I am capable. It would have been more honorable to lull the men aboard in Adua, wave them off with a tear in the eye, and then simply set fire to the ships and send them all to the bottom of the bay.
The truth? Marshal Croy is competent and cares for his soldiers, and I ardently desire to fuck his daughter. But there is only so much one man can do. His underlings, Jaladhor, Mitterick, and Meade, have been struggling manfully with each other for the place of worst general in history. I hardly know which deserves the higher contempt, the pleasant but incompetent dullard, the treacherous, reckless careerist, or the indecisive, warmongering pedant. At least the last has already paid for his folly with his life. With any luck, the rest of us will follow.
The truth! you care? Old friends like us need to have no pretenses. I know you better than most. I know better than most. You are a cringing cipher, a spineless figurehead, a self-pitying, self-loving, self-hating child man, king of nothing but your own vanity. Bias rules here, and his bereft of conscience, scruple or mercy. The man is a monster. Worst I have seen, in fact, since I last looked in the mirror.
The truth? I am rotting too. I am buried alive and already rotting. If I was not such a coward, I would kill myself, but I am. And so I must content myself with killing others in the hope that one day, if I can only wade deep enough in blood, I will come out clean. While I wait breathlessly for a rehabilitation that will never come, I will of course be delighted to consume any shit you might deem to squeeze into my face from the royal buttocks. I remain your fuckhole's most betrayed and vilified scapegoat, Bernadette Gorse, Royal Observer of the Northern Fiasco, Queen of the Andals. Oh, dude. All right, folks, we tried to give you a little special one there at the cost of all of our vocal cords.
That's yours, Jeffrey. That's yours.
I'm dealing with a major hangover, and they told me, it was like, oh, you got to start it. I was like, fuck me. All right. So, obviously, we start this chapter off with the perspective of our boy, Bernadette Gorse, who is just such a. He talks about Giselle being a self-pitying, self-hating, self-loving, creature. I mean, Bernadette Gorse is the pinnacle of this.
I find this letter is, I think, one of my favorite. It's the best letter, not just because it's utterly hilarious, but and it sums up so many things so well. But I find this, in terms of Giselle, all right, the interpersonal relationships. Old friends like us need no pretenses. I know you better than most. And he says some things, and they are true, I would say. Self-pitying, self-loving, self-hating, king of nothing but your own vanity. Bias rules here. I wonder to what degree Gorse already knew that Bias was in charge of everything. How much Giselle talked to him, because it does seem like they even Gorse, with all of his stupid shit, he is still considering them friends. He's just is such a spiteful little man. Now, on top of that, we know that Gorse, probably because of the fencing match, thinks that Giselle is in battle at least his equal, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole idea here is that maybe they are closer than what even Gorse is acting like. He even admits that he is closer to him. But it also is super tragic because everything he says is mostly true, even if it's a little intense.
Yeah. A little intense, yeah. That's one way to put it.
And I love the fact that it goes on to say that, of course, it has been right in these letters, but we just haven't seen them.
Yeah.
Yes.
His personal sort of hatred and everything is writing down and then burning it. And it's yeah, that's healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, readers, in case you're keeping pace with us, so he takes the letter and just sets it alight with the candle. Writes one of these a night until in a way to try to force himself to go to sleep. Apparently,
because he's such a pent up man. He's like I can't express myself. The only way I can is through my letters. You're a ghost fuckhole. Yes, that makes me feel great. I'll dick on my only friend and talk about how I want to fuck my commanders, who I deeply respect. I want to fuck her daughter. His daughter.
Fuck the daughter. Okay, I was gonna say, do you want to fuck the commander? Oh wow.
Maybe I do. Maybe I'm repressed. Maybe I want to fuck Giselle too. If only society would accept me in my tiny little voice, perhaps I could truly be happy, and at least only hate others rather than just myself.
Gorse is a little spicy now. Serving cunt and all that. So he goes ahead and burns the letter, and then he hears a commotion outside. Wonder what this is.
What's happening? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, he goes out there, and Younger, who's kind of getting the dents out of Gorse's armor. He goes, I have no idea. And he's like, well, stay here. And so he starts walking towards the source of the commotion. And see, it's chaos, but it's self-inflicted chaos. Look at the little baby. Look at the
Yo.
little baby.
Not so little anymore. What a big one. A big
Look at
boy.
him. Look at him.
Shepard, he's taller than you.
Yeah. The way Harrison was older than him. Ah, boom, go, go.
Oh, yeah. Oh my god.
One day, everything you see here will be yours.
Everything the
The
light touches is
podcast,
our kingdom.
everything.
Except for the shadows. Don't fuck with the shadows. So then, apparently, the source of the commotion is the fact that the Northmen have attacked in numbers. Well, it's according to one mud-caked messenger that's panicked, right? He goes, "We're overrun. They're coming!" And he just keeps running. And so now Gorse is like, "Ooh, spicy!" And so he starts, he keeps walking towards the source, and there's a lot of pandemonium. You have officers pleading for calm, while others were running for their lives. Some men searching for weapons, while others threw them away. Every kind of like shadow in the darkness is, a Northman just waiting to, pop out. And people are noticing like Colonel Gorst, right? And they're like, "Colonel Gorst, is that you?" And this happens more than once. It's like, "Is that Gorst? He'll know. Colonel Gorst. What do we do?" Anyway. At the same time, he's seeing like kind of the after effects or the effects of Calder's little push, I guess you could say, his little mission,
Little what's the
his
word?
errand,
Errand.
sortie.
Sortie.
Sortie, yep. Apparently a servant had accidentally stabbed somebody, mistaken identity. People are blundering from their tents, all this stuff. And, people keep saying, "This way, he knows." And then people, I like how Joe kind of intersperses it with like, "Have you seen they're coming, out of my way, they're gone already, everyone back. And then, interspersed here and there is, people just kind of naming Colonel Gorse, like, "Is that you?" He'll know what to do. And then there's people, begging for order. But no real order here. And then he sees General Mitterick, who's in the middle of a group of officers, and he is bursting with rage. He goes, "I want the second and third ready to charge at once." And then one of the guys goes, "Well, sir, it is still some time until dawn. The men are in disarray. We can't." And Mitterick is like, "I'll give the goddamn orders here. Why don't you tell me otherwise? I want guards on the bridge, and any man who tries to cross, hanged for desertion. Hanged!" And Colonel Gorse goes to one of the colonels, Opker, who's Mitterick's second in command. And he goes, "So what's going on? Where are the Northmen?" And Opker is pissed. He goes, "Gone. There was no more than just a few score of them. And they stole the standards of the second and the third, and then just went off into the night." And then we hear in the background, it's Colonel Felnig, and he's like, "His Majesty will not countenance the loss of his standards, General." So he's there immediately just to shit on Mitterick, because they have.
That's exactly the dynamic between these two. Felnick's just there to
He's
point
like,
out everything that Mitterick does wrong.
"You suck." In the background.
Yeah.
"You suck, Mitterick."
He's like, "Not right now."
And Mitterick, he shoots back. He's like, "I'm well aware, and I'll damn well get those standards back and kill every one of those thieving bastards. You can tell the Lord Marshal that. I demand you tell him that." Felnick is like, "Oh, I'll be telling him about it. Don't you worry on that score."
He's like not helping at all. He's just sitting there watching. He's like, "Yes, look at him failing."
But Mitterick doesn't even pay attention to him anymore. He's like yelling at his other officers. He's like, "Where are the scouts? I need to know about the ground, man, the ground." And the guy's like, "Me? Yeah, but are they back yet? I want to be sure the ground's good. Tell me it's good, damn it." I know the guy.
And that's another name that will come up again as well, Tim.
Oh yeah. While General Mitterick is staring at this guy, who I guess is a scout, he goes, "Yes, the scouts were sent, and they have returned. very much returned, and the ground is perfect, like a card table, sir. Card table with barley on it. General Mitter is like, excellent. I want no more bloody surprises. And where the hell is Major Hockelman? I want those horsemen ready to charge as soon as we have light to piss by. Do you understand me?
To piss by. Oh, the way that Joe makes characters say the stupidest things with such vehemence is it's just incredible.
It's great. It's so fantastic. But Gorse, is still he keeps walking ahead, right? And he just thinks to himself like, "Wow, it's just a raid, a little Sally that caused all this, triggered by Midoric's little display with the flags, and it's just stupidity, cowardice, and waste." And like really, like how many people had died in the chaos, and probably actually like 10 times as many as the Northmen actually killed. And he says something like, "Truly, the enemy are the least dangerous elements of a war," which is a pretty oft-repeated concept, right? Just throughout history, literature, that kind of thing. And Gorse, he kind of notes like if the Northmen would have actually pushed harder, they might have driven us back across the bridge and captured 2 whole regiments instead of just the standards. He goes, 5 men and a dog could have done it. And then he gets to, he gets to the bridge, but then he turns around and he sees like a small crowd of soldiers and servants with like a mismatched assortment of equipment at their hands, and they just followed him down the bridge. And this is all the people that were saying, "Colonel Gorse, he'll know what to do," that kind of thing. And so, and then one of them goes, "What should we do, sir?" And he just shrugs and he just walks back across the bridge. He's like, "All right, time to put on my armor."
And I like how he thinks after he sees these people follow him. He's like, which makes me what? The dog? Woof, woof, you fools.
Yeah, he calls them sheep, and he goes, "Makes me the sheepdog." That's the end of that chapter, boys. What do you think?
I'm gonna rate this one. Honestly, I'm gonna rate this one a 2 out of 9. I love the letter, but that's about the only thing I liked about this chapter. Everything else is kind of just like, oh no, shit happens. Oh no, here's the Union being idiotic again. So for me, it's not a big deal. The letter though is really good, and I really like how the fact that like we don't really see too much of the other. I don't really think it's much of a spoiler to say, but with Giselle and stuff, right? Maybe if Giselle was receiving Gorse's true feelings and thoughts, one, their relationship they would have better understanding of each other, because Gorse thinks that they're friends, but he fundamentally doesn't understand Giselle, because we know that Giselle does want to be better, and perhaps if he heard things from a close friend, he would listen and understand how the world was working better, and that's the only way he could have maybe become a better person again, is from hearing the truth, but everybody's always pedantic around him. So
Sycophantic,
thank you. And so I like that, and I always like how Gore's character, like, that's an aspect of it, and each time it's exaggerated. Like, he could do so many good things if he just wasn't so goddamn self-loathing.
Yeah.
But, yeah, 2 out of 9 for me, because otherwise I don't really like the chapter too much. It's kind of just like, okay, yeah, chaos. It's funny, but what chapter isn't?
Right. I mean, I like all chapters. There isn't a chapter I dislike.
Yes.
But this, part of like we're starting day 3. Everything's gonna kind of like is set up. It's building up to the events of the day, right? This is just kind of the after effects of the sortie that Calder led, as George had mentioned. I'll give this a 3 out of 9. I'll give this a 3 out of 9. Again, short chapter. The letter is fantastic. More self-loathing from Gorse, which we've seen time, and then nothing really happens. And then we know that Midoric is chomping at the bit to send the cavalry to charge. But yeah, 3 out of 9 for me. George?
I reckon a 3 as well. Like you said, the letter is absolutely hilarious, and it is the best letter. But yeah, apart from that, we see the reaction to Calder's little raid there, and that's pretty much it. So.
Yep. All right. So we'll move on to our next segment, which is our best meme of the week. Georgie boy, that's you. Take it away.
So this week we have user on Reddit, Kickass Grandma 911. This isn't even a picture or anything. It's just a text channel, but it's so funny that this is like an ongoing joke in the Joe Abercrombie fandom is, can I skip all of the books and go straight to the Stormlight archives? I'm wondering, can I just skip everything Joe's ever written and just go straight to the Stormlight archives by Brando Sando instead, and just say that I know a lot about Grimdark?
I absolutely love how the community's like the entire community's like understanding of humor is so in line with each other that like that's the number one uploaded thing. It's just somebody is so dumb. But because of the culture that's been pervaded through House of the Meme Maker and even the main subreddit, everybody's like, oh, that's hilarious. It's perfect. It's a great just word spill. It's awesome.
It is excellent. It is excellent. And everybody's sick of people going, oh, can I just skip the first trilogy and start reading Best of Cole? Like, no, no, you can't. So yeah, thank you very much, Kick-Ass Grandma 911.
Love it. Thanks. So we'll move on to our next chapter read through, which is Under the Wing. And we start this one off from the perspective of our boy Kerndon Crawl, who is seething internally on the issue of, do I tell Dow what Calder said or do I not? He says he had known Calder since he was a kid, and he could never really accuse him of having courage, but something was different when they talked last night. Something that he hadn't seen since Bethod. And Bethod wasn't a runner, and that's what killed him. Besides that, and Bloody Nine smashing his head apart. But but he wonders if Calder is actually going to run. Then he's wondering what will happen if Dow found out what was said without Crawl telling him. And he's like, Jesus Christ, do I tell him or not? And I like how he goes like, fuck. And Shivers goes, I. Scares the shit out of Crawl because he didn't realize he was next to him. And
God damn it, Shivers always sneaking up on people.
Mm-hmm. So it's still dark. They're all by torchlight by the heroes or whatnot. And then Dow comes up to Crawl, tells Shivers to stay there. They go inside the room where I guess Dow has made his little makeshift headquarters. And so it's just Crawl and Dow in there. And he goes, so we haven't heard back from the girl or her father, talking about Finry or Croy. And, there's no one's sent anything back. So Dow goes, he goes, looks like I put myself in debt to the giant for nothing. Huh? Women, eh? and then he goes, Crawl says something like, I can't really lend you any insights on that topic. But then Dow goes, but didn't you have one for a second? How did you make that work? And then Crawl kind of gives her a glowing recommendation. He says that she made it work, couldn't ask for a better second than wonderful, tough as a thistle, more bones than him, and sharper wits. First to see to the bottom of things, and she's a straight edge. He'd trust her with anything. No one he'd trust more. And Dow's like, well, told the fucking bells. He goes, maybe I should have picked her for your job. And it's like, maybe. Grog kind of goes. And he says to himself as he's looking out the window, he says, you got to have someone that you can trust for a second. You got to have trust. And it's like, and Crawl is probably feeling guilt, about the whole Calder thing. So he goes, so are we just like waiting for your friend, the black friend? And it's like, yeah, not sure if I call her friend, but yeah. And he asks her about him. He asks him about her, right? He goes, what's her interest in the North? Is from what he's gathered, Dow gathers that she's got a war of her own to fight, an old war, and they have a battlefield in the common now. And Crawl's like, "Ooh, a battle between sorcerers? Do we want to be a part of that?" And then he goes, well, "We're already a part of it." And then he Crawl's kind of hesitant about the idea of getting involved with magic, but Dow kind of says like, "Hey, you were up on the heroes. You saw Splitfoot talking about the cannon fire or death tubes." And so like they got to match fire with fire.
And I like that. I mean, that's quite a common trope, isn't it? Like anything that you don't understand is essentially magic.
Right. Any kind of technology is magic, right? Until you actually do understand it. And then we have Crawl kind of saying, "Well, can you trust her though?" And Ishri chimes in. She says, "No." And so Dow didn't even like break a sweat. He just like, "All right." So he kind of like asks probing questions, and she confirms or whatever denies. Like, yeah, their gesture of peace fell on deaf ears. Um, and then he goes, "Who wants to shake hands with the man whose hands are bloody as mine?" And he just looks at his hand and he goes, "Well, I guess I just have to get them bloodier." He asks her, for any kind of like scouting information. Where are they coming from today? Everywhere. Well, go on. Give some more detail. And so she says that in the east, a man called Brock has taken charge and prepares to attack the bridge in Osrong. We know who Brock is because that's our boy Harold. Dan
What
Brock.
I like about that too, when she says that, we don't know for sure. I'm sure, but Finry's like not really talking to him right now. You know what I mean? Which means he did it on his own, which I think is a.
Well, yeah, she's at the headquarters with Croy, and
Sure.
he's in Osrong. So
And the fact that he's managed to step up and
that's
take
what I
on,
mean.
like,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I find that
he's doing what Finry's been trying to do the whole time, but just on his own, doing it his way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially with Mead dead, right? Ishri says he's the opposite of Mead. He is young, pretty, and brave. Ooh. And then she goes, in the center, Jalenhorm has a great number of foot ready to cross the shallows, and Dow goes like, "Oh, this is gonna give me something to look forward to today." And then she continues on with saying, in the west, Miderick strains at the leash, keen to make use of his pretty horses. He has men across the little river, too, in the woods on your western flank. So Dow goes, Calder was right. And Ishri goes, Calder has been working hard all night. He stole 2 standards from the Union in the darkness. Now he taunts them. And Blacked Out laughs, and he goes, you'll not find a better hand at taunting. I've always liked that lad. And Crawl goes, "You have?" And then Dow says, "Why else would I keep giving him chances? I got no shortage of men that can kick a door down. I could use a couple who'll try to think, who'll think to try the handle once in a while, as in, think their way through things." And Crawl's like, "Fair enough." And he goes, "Well, I wonder what he would think if he knew Calder was trying to plot Dow's murder." And so then Dow kind of goes back to Ishri. He's like, "This new weapon, what is it?" And she just says, "Baez, the fist of the Magi. He is with them, and he has something new." But Dow goes, "Is that all you can tell me?" And listen, but she says, "Baez isn't the only one who can produce some surprises. I got one for him today. Don't you worry. I got one." And then Dow goes, like, basically he goes, "I knew there had to be a reason why I took you under my wing." And then Ishri gets all, "The light of the Lord shall say."
Oh, Ishri does love her scriptures.
Yeah. So then she goes, "The prophet shelters under the wing of God. I shelter under the wing of the prophet, the thing that keeps the rain from your head. Great or small, we all must find some shelter." And then she kind of like disappears, but then her voice came right into, just was Crawl heard it right in his ear. She just says, "Think on it," and that's the end of the chapter. Now I want to ask for your rating, but I also want you to ask, what do you think she's telling him to think on?
It's interesting, isn't it? Like, maybe she knows that Calder is trying to have him murdered. Maybe she wants that to happen. Maybe Calder would be a better leader than, in her eyes anyway, more easy to manipulate.
It would be assumed that Ishri does not have all the facts. So maybe that's it. Think on it. I don't know. It's definitely a weird one. That's a good point.
Yeah, maybe it's related to just what she was talking about with the prophet. Like, it's all about everyone must find some shelter. The prophet shelters all. God shelters all. Blah blah blah. Could be that. Listeners, if you have an idea of what it could mean, please hit us up. Well, while we struggle with that, boys, what do you want to rate this chapter?
I'm gonna give this one a relatively low one as well. I think I'm gonna give it a 3 and a knuckle. I love seeing Dow and Crawl. I like to see Crawl actually thinking about what he's going to do rather than just doing the whole straight edge thing and just coming out and going, oh, yeah, by the way, Calder wants to kill you, which is what we all expected him to do, I think.
Yeah.
But apart from that, yeah, it's very short. Everybody's just getting ready for the next day. So, yeah, 3 and a knuckle.
3 and a knuckle? Okay, that's good. That's good. I'll give it a 4. I love a good chapter with Black Dow in it. And yeah, Crawl and Dow's interactions always fun to witness. Especially because Dow keeps surprising Crawl. Because Crawl keeps expecting like a knife in the dark or something.
So dramatic.
Yeah, and Dow, and then he tells him, yeah, I like Calder, which is interesting because, Dow had such strong feelings for Forley the Weakest. And, he's like, I always liked Calder. So it's like,
It's weird, isn't it? Because he never, ever expresses anything like that, does he?
no.
Throughout the first trilogy, nothing like that for Calder. It's always, that little shit,
So, but years have passed since then. So, maybe I don't know. Maybe
I think that that when Blackdale says he likes Calder, I think he doesn't like what he's done, but he likes his personality. Like, if that makes sense. Like, he fundamentally likes the kind of person he is. He just despises the fact that he killed Forley the Weakest. And as time has gone on, that resentment has kind of faded, and so he's a bit more, okay with Calder being around. So
yeah, and I think it's faded with the more time Dow has spent with Calder, as opposed to other people who might not have seen Calder since the trilogy, right?
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, he also knows that maybe he recognizes that Calder is different as well.
Yeah,
even if Calder pretends like he doesn't.
He does. What would you rate it, Harrison?
I'm gonna rate it a 4 and a knuckle. Actually, just a 4. I'm sorry, I was just a 4. Same reasons as you said, Jeffrey. I like the Dow stuff. I think Joe handles so many themes all at once. That's why he's such a good writer. I think it's one reason, at least, and something that we keep seeing pop up, at least in these little chapters here, is Joe always plays with how people perceive each other and miscommunication and none of that. But I really like how in this book there's a lot of ways that, not like how the character sees themselves. Ironically, it's actually a little bit different, and actually is the outside point of view this time in this book. How each character thinks other people view them is what's more important to a lot of these characters in this book. Carl cares about what Black Dow thinks, and his doesn't, and he's like, and Gorse is obviously caught up in his own shit. Like he's not worried about people. He's like misunderstanding how he's being perceived. Carl's the same way. I mean, it's interesting. Even Calder's the same way. But I think that is very interesting, and I think it's starting to really get played up here because now we're seeing that, he's like, oh my god, Dow's gonna stab me in the back, which he's kind of been saying the whole time. Mm-hmm. But it's silly because we know what kind of person Black Dow is. But Craw doesn't see that because he fundamentally doesn't understand who Black Dow is. Gorse thinks that Giselle would never want to hear the truth, but we know that Giselle would love to hear the truth. It's just stuff like that all throughout this book.
I mean, I think all the things that Gorse says about himself, says about Giselle has thought about himself.
Yeah. No,
yeah. Sure. Especially the powerless cipher bit. I think that's actually word for word what Giselle says about himself.
Yeah. But Gorse, people that say that they're powerless and, it's like, woe is me. We'll get to a point. We'll get to the part where Gorse gets dressed down. You know what I mean? But we'll get to that.
And I like the little exposition here on the other side where we're getting, information from Ishri instead, and her little flair. So I think it affords good. The only other thought I had on it is how Black Dow, of course, is always he's just so interesting.
Yeah,
I know what you've already expressed.
You already know.
We can talk about Black Dow. Black Dow. When we talk about Black Dow, it's like when we talk about the Bloody Nine, or whenever we talk about Baez. We could just go on forever with all the little intricacies for his characters. So
absolutely,
it's great to see him.
Absolutely. So, due to the timing of the character spot, we're actually going to go straight into our final chapter read through, which is names. This is from the perspective of our boy Beck, aka Red Beck, aka Big Dick Beck, aka okay. So he sitting around the fire at nighttime, just chilling, hanging out, when he's just thinking about a different Beck back in the day, one that was so thirsty to, make a name for himself and with great deeds.
It's funny how he talks like how Craw talks. But Craw took like 30 years and he's already like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah, for real. And Droft kind of sits next to him, and so it's just those two chilling by the fire. Droft tries to make conversation. He offers him a little bit of jerky, and he goes, "Oh, so you got yourself a name, huh?" And Beck just nods. And it's like Redbeck. It's a good one, fierce sounding. You must be pleased. And Beck, he wants to say like, "I hid it in a cupboard and killed one of my own," but all he says is, "I reckon." And Droft is like, he talks about how he wants to have a name, he wants to get a name, but he reckons it'll come in time. But Beck doesn't really want to talk, but Droft isn't. He's a talker. He's a talker. He asks him if he has a family, and Beck just starts saying, "But yeah, I got a mother and two little brothers. One is apprenticed to a smith in the valley." But then once he started thinking and talking about his family, he didn't stop. He says that more than likely his mother's getting ready to bring the harvest in. It was getting ripe when he left, and she'll be sharpening the scythe and all that. And the Festin will be gathering up after her. And then how he wished he was with them. Like he was thinking to himself, he was about to smile and cry all at once. And then Droft kind of, chimes in and says that he's got 7 sisters. He's the youngest. It's like living with 8 mothers, just all fussing over him. And I like how Beck is like, because Droft says it's home was a special kind of hell. And Beck is like, he thinks to himself, a warm house with 8 women and no swords? It did not sound awful at all. But Droth keeps going. He talks about how he has a new family now. Crawl, Wonderful, Jolly On, everybody good names, good fighters. They'll stick together, They lost a couple of good people the last couple of days, and then he starts talking about like how Crawl was second to 3 trees back in the day, real straight edge. And he talks about how Beck was lucky in a way to kind of just join up with this group of dozen because of, who they are following. Crawl, Wonderful, of the old sort. And then he asks Beck about where did he get the sword. He says it's from his father. And he just says, yeah, I guess he's a named one, famous, I guess. Shama Heartless. And Droft is like, what? The one that fought the duel against the Bloody Nine? He's like, yep. And the one that, got killed with his own weapon. All that jazz.
I like how, Beck's father's legacy kind of like hangs over him the whole time. The only reason why he really wants to come up here is because his father did. And because that's just the way everybody is. So, like, with the fact that he's going over this now and he's like, well, it doesn't really mean anything anymore. I really enjoy that as a character moment. He's let go of that shadow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he has. And Droft, I guess, is still kind of like enamored with the idea, right? Of making a name, having songs about you in the North. He wants to hold the sword, and there was a time Beck would have told Droft to go fuck off, but not now. So he's like, here you go. And then I like, at that moment, Wonderful walks up, and she goes, well. 2 lads handling each other's weapons by firelight? Don't worry. I can see how it can happen. You think no one's watching, and there's a fight coming, and you might never get another chance to try it. Most natural thing in the world. Droth gives back the sword. He's like, we're just talking, names. He's like, how did you get your name anyway? Wonderful goes, she didn't say it yet, but then Jolly Yon, who was sleeping, kind of woke up and is like, she got her name from 3 trees. And so he starts telling the story. Basically, her family had a farm north of Ufrith. And so when Bethod started up with all that trouble back in the day, some of his men came down to the valley. She had basically took up the sword, got a few others in the valley, same thing, and they basically ambushed them. And then 3 trees and Jolly and Craw and all of them came up. They were expecting to find the valley kind of burnt out and everything, but instead they found a dozen of Bethod's men hanged and a dozen more prisoner, and this bloody girl was watching over them with quite the smile. And then he recalls what 3 trees had said. He says, wonderful strange to have a woman in charge. So they called her Wonderful Strange for about a week or two, and then they just dropped off the Strange, and that's it. And then a month, and then Wonderful's like, yeah, but then a month later, Betha came truly, and the valley got burnt out anyway. And then they're like, okay,
Oh,
what about you, Jolly Uncumber? How'd you get your name? And uh,
ain't much to it. What's that? What is his accent, George? In the audiobook, he's got a very peculiar accent. I don't know.
Uh huh.
It's. I think it's more the inflection than anything. He's got it. It's got kind of like a West Country accent, the same that Dogman does.
So how would you
But
do it again?
Just deeper
But-
voice.
he's well, there ain't much to it.
Yes, very well done.
Okay. Yeah, and I think this is wonderful telling the story now, but she says that Jolly Jan was straight in the old days because he used to be quite the joker. Then his cock was tragically cut off in the battle, in a word, a loss more mourned by the women folk of the north than all of the husbands, sons, and fathers killed there. Ever since then, not a single smile. And he's like, that's not true. He goes, I just never had a sense of humor. That's what it was. And then Flood comes up and he's like, oh, we're all up already. And then Wonderful kind of, she says, our youngest woke us. Droft was having a feel of Beck's weapon. And then Jan goes, oh, you can see how it can happen, though. He's like, Jesus, no.
I just love the fact that with Jolly Yon's name as well, like he denies it and everything. I was just a nick out my thigh, and then Wonderful turns to them, it's like cock and fruits, chop chop. And the second he looks back over, he's like, "Oh no, I didn't say that."
Yeah, and then Flood makes like a joke, whatever, and it doesn't really like hit, and then Jan goes, what, did you have to go for your third piss of the night? Flood goes, no, my fourth. And then Wonderful chimes in. She goes, that's why they call him Flood, in case you were wondering. And then he had Scory Tiptoe with him. And, because he's the scout, if you remember. And that's the reason why they call him Scory Tiptoe, his gentle footfall and everything. And he shakes hands with Red Beck because I guess this might be their first proper introduction because we have to remember like it was just yesterday that Beck, became
Murdered.
which Jesus Christ became part, all right, of Craw's dozen.
He also murdered someone yesterday.
He did murder. Yes, he did. There was a lot of murdering going around. And then Scory asked him, he's like, did Craw give you the talk about the right thing and everything? And he's like, yeah, Craw mentioned it. And Scory says, wouldn't take it too seriously because the right thing is a different thing for every man. Interesting, Scory. Interesting. And then,
He's a philosopher type.
Yeah, sure.
Philosophizing.
I mean, and that philosophizing and shit, yeah. I mean, that's always been a big thing for Joe, isn't it? Like everybody wants to do the right thing. It's just that everybody disagrees on what that is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And, Scory starts sharpening some knives. And Wirren, he's sleeping, but he hears, like, the scrape of steel. And he's like, steel! I hear steel! Somebody goes, shut up! It's like, why is it dark? Are we ready to fight? What's going on here? And then he goes, what's going on? So, basically, they're just talking about how they all got their names. And then, he goes, yes, well, he looks down at his sword. This is the father of swords, and men have 100 names for it. And everybody's just like, oh my God. And he goes off. Dawn Raiser, Grave Maker, Blood Harvest, Highest and Lowest. Skagank Gayok in the Valley Tongue, which means the splitting of the world. The battle that was fought at the start of time and will be fought again at its end. And he's on and on with this fucking thing. And they say that in the valleys where he was born, it is God's sword dropped from heaven. And the Flood is, he does like, don't you agree? And Wirren goes, no. Because God makes things. He's a farmer, a craftsman, a midwife, gives things life. What the hell would God want with the sword? Which is, oh yeah, Wirren, you're so fucking deep. A wonderful step. And then I like how Beck chimes in. He goes, Wirren of Blah doesn't seem so deep of a name. And everyone's like, no. And he's like, well, aren't you from Bleh? And Warren goes, never been. He goes, I have no idea how they gave me the name. It's maybe Bleh was the only place folk up there had heard of. Doesn't
I
matter.
love that idea.
Yeah, it's not really about the name anyway. It's about the man who carries the name, right? That's why people shit themselves. And then Droth goes, okay, well, what about Cracknut Weirin? And I like Weirin goes, well, that's pretty straightforward. So an old man near Ustrad taught me the trick of cracking a walnut with my fist. And so what you do is, and Wonderful guy goes, that's not why they call you Cracknut. And then Weirin goes, what? And like, yeah, John even goes like, no, that's not why. And then Wonderful says, they call you Cracknut for the same reason they gave Cracknut Leaf the same name. She goes, because it's widely assumed that you're fucking crazy. Your nut is cracked. And then we're just like, they do? Well, that's less complimentary, the fuckers. I'll have words next time I hear that. You spoiled it for me.
That's so fucking silly. I love it.
And then at that moment, Craw and Shiver show up, and there's like, morning, people. And then Droth is asking him, like, are you right? He's like, yeah. Offers him some of the jerky, takes a bit of it. And then, they're just kind of like shooting the shit, talking about how it's the definition of all right changes with the passing of winters. He's about as all right by the standards of the last few days, but 20 years ago he would have considered this close to death. And so then Craw kind of looks at Droft and he says, if the Union come, and it's pretty sure that they will, it might be best that he stays out of it. He wants him to stay out of it, and because it'll be a proper battle, and he knows he's got the bones for it, but you don't have the gear. A hatchet and a bow, and the Union got armor, good steel, and all the rest. And he was thinking about like finding him a place somewhere in the reserves, in the rear. And Droth is like, no, I want to fight. He looks at Beck and he goes, I want a name. Give me the chance. And Crawl goes, name or not, you'll just be the same man, no better, maybe worse. And Droth gets angry. He goes, it's like easy for those to say who have a name. And then Wonderful chimes in and says, look, if he wants to fight, let him fight. And then Crawl looks up. He's kind of surprised at this. And he goes, well, I guess it's your dozen now. And which is true, right? It's now Wonderful's dozen.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, that's a fact. And everybody will be fighting. And then she goes, besides, you don't need a great weapon to win yourself a name. Didn't you get yours with your teeth, Crawl? And then Crawl goes, not really. Because Droth was like, did you bite someone's throat out? And then, so here Crawl tells the story. He goes, no, it's like first full battle I had when it was a real red day, and he was in the midst of it all. And he had a real thirst back then. He wanted to be her, wanted himself a name. And they all sat around the fire pit afterwards, and he was expecting something fearsome, like Red Beck. Then when Three Trees was considering it, he took a big bite from a piece of meat, drunk, so he must have gotten a bone stuck in his throat. So he spent a minute hardly able to breathe, everyone thumping him on the back, and somebody in the end had to hold him up upside down for the bone came loose. And he could barely talk for a couple days. So that's when Three Trees called him Craw on account of what he got stuck in it. And then Weirin chimes in and goes, Sharkleg said, I will be shown my destiny by a man choking on a bone. And then Crawl, he goes, lucky him, because then he says he was furious when he got the name, but now he knows what Three Trees was doing for him, his way of trying to keep him level-headed, And Shivers chimes in and goes, seems like it worked. You're the real straight edge, aren't you? And Crawl goes, yeah, a real straight edge. And then Scory kind of...
Which is interesting, considering that we know that Crawl's kind of contemplating not telling Thou about Calder's trail.
Mm-hmm. Very true, very true.
Well, that's what the whole little build-up here is, I think, part of it. I mean, obviously, we're getting to interact between these characters, but... there's a tension in this day because of these truths coming to light where people are not sure how to handle, their situation. And I think that is built up really, really, really well in a subtle way without, derailing the kind of flow of the book. It's very well done. So I think that, having those little moments that people always talk about how Carl is a straight edge, and meanwhile he's having his own internal battle. For once, he's like really like what the fuck am I supposed to do here?
Well, but that's the thing. The whole book is him not being sure what to do, right? It's like, what is the right thing? What is the right thing? Then he kind of, once he decides, then it's like, he's set on it. But he struggles, like, earlier, like with hard bread in them and just everything. It's just everything. He does, he has a good idea of what's the right thing to do. Like, he doesn't want to, like, stab people in the dark or anything like that. But
Sure.
at the same time, he does, like, he's always, like, wondering what to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. That's a
I
good
got
point.
that sense from Craw before, and then Scory, I like how while he's sharpening his knives, he kind of just looks at Shivers. He's like, oh, maybe he hasn't met the new guy. He goes, oh, Shivers, you met our newest recruit, Red Beck, and Shivers like just stares at him, and he goes, I have down in Ostrong yesterday, and Beck is he's like, Jesus Christ, can Shivers just see right through me with that metal eye and just know me for the liar that I am? Fuck. And then he goes, quite a day yesterday. Well, that's what Beck said. And then Warren chimes in. He goes, yep, and I guess today will be another one if we're lucky. And that's the end of that chapter. Boys, how do you rate it?
It's a weird one to rate, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think that in terms of like group dynamic for this group of people, and I think this is somewhat intentional, I think this is the best chapter for this group. And like they are, the way they're talking with each other, it's funny, it's interesting. We're getting some background without it feeling so super exposition-y. But as always with this group, it always feels a little bit meandering. And so, but I don't know. It's a tough one. I'm gonna give it.
You can kind of get that though, because it's meant to. They're all just kind of waiting around for the fight. So the fact that they're all just chatting shit is.
Yeah, it fits in.
I
well.
really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Harrison.
I'm gonna give it a 6 and a knuckle. I think like I said a minute ago, it's the best for this group of people. I think it's the best dynamic. It also is kind of setting up the classic before the battle. Everyone chilling out. You don't know who's gonna die. You don't know what's gonna happen, and Joe's kind of making sure that you have an understanding of what's going on. And having Beck in here having his own mental crisis, and having Crawl there having his own mental crisis. It's good. It's very good, and they're both kind of caught up on their own stuff and thinking no one could understand what kind of position they're currently in. And again, that's just not true. I'm sure Wonderful is really stressed the fuck out right now too, and maybe not happy. So I think it's done really well with a lot of subtlety, but also they are kind of just sitting around. So
yeah, I reckon I'm gonna give this one just a 6, but I really enjoy seeing the stories about how they all get their names, the subtext with everybody, like you say, being really on edge but not really wanting to show it, and yeah, it's a little, I don't know, like a calm before the storm here before everything kicks off again, which is nice. So yeah, I reckon a 6.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 5. I like the chapter, but it is pretty like Harrison mentioned, like this is the best example of the meandering nature of this crew. And so I'll give it a 5 out of 9 fingers. I mean, there's not much more I can add to it. It's like, yeah, they're shooting the shit. Redbeck is dealing with a lot of guilt, especially with like when it comes to like how he came by his name, right? And how he really came by his name versus like what Ricci and Flood thought. And everyone's name was given to them by either it's like surprising revelation, right? Like they expected Crawl, like what do you do with his teeth? And turns out he got a bone stuck in his throat. Jolly, just because he's not jolly at all. Wonderful was something you don't expect. They're like, well, how do you get that kind of name anyway? What's a woman doing in the North? Not that we're sexist or anybody, just it's not seen in the first law often in the North. That's all we're saying. That is all we're saying. But so yeah,
are you sure about that, Jeffrey?
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe the times have passed me by, or did I pass the times? I don't know.
I think it's distinct. I like how the Northmen, whenever there's a woman involved, they're not like, this isn't a woman's job. They're just like, oh, women don't usually do this. I like that because women would obviously be in a place like the North. They would get shit done, and I like that the Northmen yeah, they're big, strong men. And Joe doesn't write them to be like misogynist just for misogyny, because they're men. They're just like, this is a little different. Not like it's wrong. So I like that dynamic.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
I like that as well. I like the fact that the first thing that Three Trees has to say, especially, is "wonderful strange." I think that's brilliant.
It's very it. Whenever they say that too, it's definitely like that sounds exactly what something Three Trees would say.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
God, I miss Three Trees.
God, we all miss Three Trees.
Don't we miss them? Don't we all miss them? But I mean, with that rating, we can. I think we could parlay that into our character spot, boys. And who are we spotlighting today?
We are spotlighting.
So,
Go ahead, George.
Jolly Oncumber, who, like you said, Harrison, is not jolly at all. He's got one of those ironic prison nicknames. Where,
Nickname.
if you're like a really big guy, you're called Tiny
Yeah.
or whatever, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he's we've seen him throughout this book, and he doesn't really do a huge amount. But I just really like him as a character. He's like one of the stereotypical Northmen. He's a great fighter, really head on straight, knows what he's doing all the time, but he just doesn't really enjoy any of it. He's just like, yeah, whatever.
He's just tired of it all. He's like, fuck this.
And I especially like his little dialogues with Kroll when he says, if I die, and will you go and tell my family, and exactly what I was and all that. And I just think that there's that self-awareness there that a lot of the other Northmen don't have.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Harrison, you want to add anything to it? 'Cause
No, I think I've said my piece.
yeah, I mean, besides, can't really add to what George said because, there's not a lot other than that as of right now.
Right.
As of right now, we know that he, as much as he respects Crawl and everything, he doesn't really jive with the whole right way, straight edge. Remember, that one point was they were about to rob the bodies, and then Crawl was like, "No, don't do that." Remember that? And he was like, "Jesus Christ, we're barely earning any money anyway." Right. So that's a big thing for Jolly, So, but other than that, yeah, Jolly is just another guy who came by a name, like George said, in an ironic way. Ironic in a prison way, which is funny, or prisony in an ironic way. I don't know.
Ooh, I like that. Very, very Northman-like.
Yeah. See what I'm doing there? But yeah, so that's our character spot. That's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support means oh so much.
Join us next week as we cover Still Yesterday, For What We're About to Receive, and The Riddle of the Ground.
And make sure you follow us on all of our social media. Shoot us an email at circleofthewildpodcast@gmail.com or check out the website.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast from. And please make sure to rate and review us. Thank you all again for listening.
What a day yesterday.